Hello and welcome to a new episode of Remote Pair Programming. I have Stefan again with me. Today we hope we will finish or at least continue with our pull request explorer. So I'm gonna let Stefan explain a bit about what we want to achieve today. So hi.
Hi. So what I'm hoping to do today is to add a bunch of functionality. I'm not sure whether we're gonna finish, but we're at least gonna try. So last time we essentially implemented this, where you could see all the repositories I have access to, and then you could star and unstar them. And then what I want to do now is when you tap on one of them, you can see the list of pull requests and maybe go a bit deeper, see the comments, leave a comment, approve a pull request, and so on. Let's see. And after we throw in some new functionality, I would like to do some refactoring because we left it a bit messy last time.
Yeah, the code isn't nice. That's true.
Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah, sure. Perfect sense.
Cool. So let's jump right into Xcode. Let me do some window management here. Yep, everything is fine. So last time, and by the way, I have not picked this up since last time, so you're gonna go on the same journey as me in rediscovering what we did last time.
Yeah, it's a bit of archaeology, but it will be fun.
It would be fun. I think essentially we just did this view controller here that made a network request through GraphQL to fetch all the repositories. We implemented UI table view delegate here, so we can populate the table view, and we have this class that just has the starring functionality, does a GraphQL mutation, and here is how we configure the UI table view cell. I don't think we have anything else here, do we? We have this, but this is just like a convenient way to get the token from the configuration. And this here is some networking code that I think I just like wrote here and we didn't go through it, and it's not really that interesting. It just says this header here and this cache key here. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, cool. Cool. So the next thing I want to do essentially is add another controller as soon as you tap here. So you tap here and you go to a new one that will show you all the pull requests for that specific repository. Cool. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is make sure that we're using Git, and we are. I'm just gonna commit this. I don't want to show you what we have here since it has my token, and I don't want that on screen. But yeah, let's commit more frequently here. This time we didn't do that last time. And then even before I go and explore the API call, the first thing I want to do is essentially hook up the controllers. So essentially have a new controller that I would land on when I tap here. Once I have this in place, I'm gonna go and check how to do the network requests. Make sense?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Cool. So the very first thing we need to do is come to the storyboard. And I think we need to do a bunch of things here. So essentially there's something called navigation controller in iOS that allows you to move from one screen to the next and then be able to go back. There should be a button somewhere that embeds this into a navigation controller. And I haven't done this in a while, so I need to see where it is. It's maybe this one, yeah. Cool, so yeah, it worked. And actually, give me a second. Cool. And then I'm going to throw in a new controller here, which would allow me to show stuff. Eventually, it's going to be a table view controller, so let's do that now. And I need to create a new class here. I also need to rename this one. And because I don't like remembering that many things, did we do this last time? The backlist?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
No.
So essentially, I usually do this on a piece of paper, but since I cannot like show you the piece of paper right now, I'm gonna do it in Vim. And essentially, I just keep a list of things I need to do, so I don't need to remember them.
Yeah.
So rename view
I do the same on paper.
To something else. Yeah. So I'm just like visualizing it now. So cool. It's in the storyboard, and I need to create a new file here. Let's call it repository controller. No, it's just a Swift file. Repository controller. Very, very enterprising name. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. So it needs to be I have forgotten Swift, it appears. It needs to be a UI table view. It needs to be a table view controller. And back in the storyboard, I need to set it somewhere over here. Cool. So for starters, let's just log in. Let's just log to the console that this gets opened. And then we need to react on tapping here. And it's a method in, I think, UI table view delegate. And it's sorry, I need to do one more thing in the storyboard, and I need to create a segue here. So I think there's on select. Yeah, there is one. Show. Cool. I think that should be it actually. Yep, we get this message and then we can go back. Cool, makes sense, right?
Yep.
So I want to do two more things here. The first thing is set the title in repository controller. And the second is fixing selection. And basically it's a weird iOS thing, but like when you come here and then go back, this one is selected, which is not ideal. I'm sure there's like a very canonical way to fix it. But something you can do is you can overwrite view will appear, and then there's a method on table view that you can call to remove the selection. So let's just Google this. Stack Overflow is nice.
Yeah, it's good for copy-paste coding.
Yeah, but let's not copy-paste. Deselect selected row. Yeah, let's do that. So we need to get the
index of the selected one.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. What was the type here? It's an optional array. All right. We don't need the animation, and it's not gonna make me capture stuff. Let's see. Very sure there's a better way to do that, but you know, like, yep, cool. Like occasionally you also deselect it whenever you have like a handler here, but I don't have a handler here right now. Maybe I'll change it later. So we did this, and then I want to set a title in this controller here. Actually, the reason I want to set title is because I want to pass an object from this controller to this controller.
So that you can show it or show the information, or why?
So I can use it to make another request.
Okay.
But for starters, I just want to put the title there, so I know I have it and I know I'm successfully passing data between the controllers, and then I can take it from there. And this one is going to get like a bit weird. So essentially, and it's very, very debatable what's the best practice here. But the most classical thing you can do is, so you have those things called segues, which transition from a screen to another screen, and they can have names. And I'm gonna call this show repository. And then in this controller, there's a method you override called prepare for segue. And here you have an opportunity to set up things. So you can switch on the segue identifier. And if it's show repository.
Okay. So there's a kind of duplication in between that and the name. It's a bit of PHP basically, right?
And here I'm gonna do a fatal error. Actually, maybe that should be enough. Actually, let's make this an assertion error. Assertion failure. The difference is that if you do like a test build or a development build, this would crash. In production, it won't. We can like get into a very long discussion whether we want it to fail early or fail late in production, but in development, you definitely want this to fail. And now what I want to see is this print and not this failure or anything. Yeah, cool. And now here I have an opportunity to configure the other controller. So the destination here is a repository controller. And I can set the repository to be actually give me a second, I need to see what sender is. So essentially the way this works is that I need to have a repository here. It needs to be a var. I'm going to explain the exclamation point in a second. So this one has a property of type repository, and basically I need to set it and then use it somewhere here. Here, and there are two problems. I need to get access to a specific repository, and remember we have an array here with all the repositories, and this type here is currently not widely accessible, because if you remember, it was like this one. It was some very complicated type that came from the GraphQL API. So let's muscle through. I'm just gonna copy paste type.os. And this should be fine here, and this should compile. And then here I have access to the array because it's in self, but I'm not sure what the index is, and I think this sender has the index. So that's why I printed it, and I think it's gonna be an index path. I'm not sure, but let's see. Otherwise, we Google it. No, it's something else. All right. This is the moment where we remember that I'm just an amateur iOS developer. And let's just Google it. It should be like pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Kind of don't like this approach. It's gonna work, but we're definitely doing something smarter here. Anyway, so like you remember this selection here, essentially we can do table view index path for selected row, and then it's going to have a row, and this should be the index. And here we should be able to do controller repository index, and then back in the other controller we should have like a repository. Did that make sense?
Yeah, so the print is like a way to show that it's connected, right?
Yeah, just as you know, I like doing small steps.
Yep.
So yeah, it's there. And then I think we can just title equals repository name with owner, and that should fix it. There we go. Cool. So I'd like to commit here. We have some storyboard junk and this stuff. So I don't consider this like a full commit. It's by far not ready yet, but I like creating small work in progress commits.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna score them eventually.
So do you call them whip?
Yeah, as in work in progress.
And then you put them together at the end, right?
Yeah, I just do like git rebase interactive. I don't think we have 3 commits here, and I just merge them. We have one here called whip housekeeping, which I would keep because remember that's something that I forgot to do in advance, but otherwise I'm gonna score them together. And then I think I can even delete the other commits because it just changes the token. Cool. So let's go back to the list. We did this. The typo-wise is indeed messy. And essentially I'm like trying to make a decision whether to refactor or to postpone it a bit.
I would postpone it. I don't feel that's enough information yet to do that.
Yeah. Fair enough. I can buy that. I still want to make this renaming though.
That's so generic, like view controller can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the original name of the generated project. And I mean, let's call it main view controller. No, yes, maybe. I would call it repositories view controller.
So there's this practice of having the suffix at the end, having always a view controller.
Yeah. There is this practice, or at least that's what my team tells me. And here I just call it controller. I'm gonna rename it to view controller again. And I think I messed something up.
Did it rename everywhere?
I think it did.
But you didn't do anything then, rename anything else.
Yeah, but remember, this is Xcode. It's not like shall we say, a very thought through IDE.
Okay.
I'm just gonna revert and do it again.
So now the build should work, right?
Now the build should work.
Yeah.
And it does. So let's do baby steps now.
So even renaming is difficult.
Yep. Sadly, it is. There's something called app code, which is IntelliJ's version of iOS tools. Haven't tried it out in Anger yet. It should be doing better, but I'm kind of used to this. You can notice that I did not do anything different.
Yeah.
But now it works. Or at least I think
that's crazy.
At least I don't think I did anything different. Yeah. If you come from Java, you're really shocked by this, but I come from Ruby, so even the fact that I can do a renaming that's not like super hard and needs set or awk or a lot of grepping is a benefit for me. So yeah. I noticed some warnings here, and I kind of want to fix them because otherwise I might miss something important. This one like wants a name. I'm really not using the name anywhere yet. It's going to be a pull request eventually. So let's just name it pull request view cell. And this one should have, no, actually, wrong place. It's here. Now this one disappeared, and then this should be it. There we go. And finally, I do want to like extract this to a different. Do I? No, it's fine here. Let's keep it, but let's write it down. Like the reason I do some amount of housekeeping, although nothing like really that's crucial, is because if I have too many open things, even if they're written down, they start like messing me up a bit.
Yeah, of course. I think if you have more than 4 or 5 already, kind of is at the limit.
Yeah, so let's go back to the GraphQL queries. Now, the next thing I want to do is make a query that returns all pull requests for a specific repository. And I think it should be something like this. First, we get a repository. Actually, actually no. This like a pet project that I'm sure has some pull requests. Then we can list them here. So let's see what the options are. Is the font? Let me zoom in a bit.
Yeah, that's a bit better.
So there's states here, and this state should allow me to get open, closed, and merged. Now, I'm not sure whether I need to filter or not. So I want to see the states I get. Yeah, okay, I'm getting all of them.
Yeah.
And am I getting them in chronological or reverse chronological order? It's chronological. So I want to do reverse chronological. There should be an option for that.
Order by.
Yeah. And
That's like a bit complicated. So I think
I've actually never seen this structure in a GraphQL API before, but it should not be that hard to figure out. Oh, sorry, it's just one object. Yeah, that makes sense. I thought it was an array. So it's fields created at and direction descending. There we go. And now we have pull requests.
So first 100, that means that it will retrieve 100, and then if there are more, it will retrieve more, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I need to make a second query to get the second page, and I'm actually not even sure it's returning 100. It might have a hard limit on 50 or 30 or something.
Here in this or generally?
In this one. I don't think I'm scrolling through 100, but it doesn't matter. Let's count them later. So if I want to get a second page, I need to like do first and then did we not cover paging last time? Anyway, let's do it again. So you're saying first 5, and then you have this page info object that can tell you whether there's a next page, and the end cursor. And essentially here I can see that yes, there is a next page, and then if I want to get the next page, I need to do after and then this cursor here. Make sense?
So end cursor means it's for the whole data set or just for what you retrieved?
Just for the pagination options I set.
Okay.
So there's this thing called connection in like relay compatible GraphQL schemas, and it's essentially a way to do paging. And the way it works is that you supply firsts and after. Like I want 10, the first 10 projects after this cursor. And then what you get back is an array of, in this case, projects. Or let's do it on the pull requests. An array of pull requests and a page info. And the page info would know what you need to pass to after if you want to get the next page. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And additionally, there's these edges here, which is essentially a pull request with a cursor. So instead of edges, instead of nodes, if I do edges, I can get the pull request here, and then I can get a cursor as well. So we see that within this connection, we have like those nodes. This is like each node, and this is in this case, the pull request, and this is the cursor for each one. Each one would have a cursor, and then like PT1 as well. This one will be the cursor of the last repository, of the last pull request we get. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit weird when you look at it the first time because it's a bit more generic, but when you get used to it, it makes sense. I don't know, I've explained that a number of times to like various people, and I still haven't figured out how to explain it really simply. But it's not that hard.
But it does give you a lot of flexibility, right?
Yeah, for example, you can
whatever.
Yeah, you can delete this in the client, and then you can like search for stuff after the previous one, or you can get like some data set right in the middle, and then you can go before and after. And this cursor here is specific to the filtering options and the model you're searching for. So if I pass a different filter here or a different sorting criteria here, it would be different cursors.
Okay.
Like it wouldn't make sense to use a cursor from one sorting order with a different sorting order. Cool. So yeah, that's the query. And then we are gonna take the query and copy it here in queries GraphQL. We're gonna tweak it a bit, and I want to tweak it a bit here. Pull requests query. I want it to take two variables. Name, which is a string, owner, which is a string. I'm missing something. I'm missing a $sign. This is the name. This is the owner. This was just for demonstration purposes, and let's stick to 100.
Yeah.
And name is scanf. No. Owner. Scanf and name. This is annoying. Name is ls. Then when we run this, it works. Cool. Actually, I want to tweak my query a bit more. Before copying it, I want to make sure that like I'm getting the right data. So let's go for the timestamp. Let's go for the date. Let's go for the title. We're definitely gonna need an ID. And is there like some interesting summary, like number of comments, maybe? Yep, and we have number of comments. Cool. I want to see if there's something interesting here. Actually, no, you know what? Let's not overthink it. Let's get this. And I don't need the total count yet. So this is my query. And now if I build this, we should get a new, there was a code gen in this project that generates this API file. And it should have a pull requests query. It's actually called pull request query, which is not the best name. So I'm gonna remove.
That's a thing to fix.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove the word query from here.
Yeah, there is not any query here, like the word.
Yeah. So now it's fine.
So this code is generated from there. And
Yeah.
the IDE does the generation, or does that?
It's an external tool called Apu. It's essentially how the client works here.
Mm-hmm.
And the IDE just calls it.
Oh, yeah, I see.
So Xcode is calling some, in this case, JavaScript code to generate this. And that's how it works. Cool. So let's try to list the pull requests here. I'm just gonna blatantly copy paste some code now, shamelessly.
Well, it's fine as long as we refactor afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna delete stuff that I don't care about. I don't care about this one. I'm not gonna care about this one either, actually. Assuming that I know what I'm doing. Come again. Yeah, all right. Fair enough.
Because the function exists already, or?
Yeah. Let me just fix the compiler error and I'm going to tell you. Pull requests. So I think is whatever. Let me comment this out. So essentially, when you are doing table views in iOS, there are two different things you can do. You can either use UI table view controller that comes with a lot of stuff out of the box, or you can just create a normal controller and then put a UI table view inside it. If you're doing a normal controller, you need to implement a data source and a delegate, and then you need to hook the table view to that data source and that delegate. And if you're using UI table view controller, it already implements those methods and you need to override them. So that's why I need to do override here.
Oh, I see.
I'm not sure why we're using a UI table view controller here and a regular view controller here, but it really doesn't matter at this stage. And like this deselecting that we did here, if I was using UI table view controller here, I would have not needed to do it. But you know, like, it doesn't matter, we can change it in a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So this should be, actually, let me return my comment. This should be pull requests query.
So now you need to get the name of the owner.
Yeah, I have them, but I don't like it. There should be a...
Can't you bind them in a way?
Sorry?
Can't you bind them in a way from the code?
What do you mean by bind them?
Bind them in the in the other screen where you were drawing stuff around transitions.
Yeah. You mean?
Well, binding means that you attach a data source or part of a data source to a certain view or a view object.
So I don't need to do that yet because I have it here. So this like repository object already has the data, but it has like a name with owner.
Okay.
And the reason it has name with owner is because that's what I'm selecting here. I can also select name here and owner here. But what I realized is that this is not how I want to do it. I want to do it differently. And the way I want to do it is through ID. But let's do this for now, and let's write it down in the list. Cool, so I modified the query to return me the name and the owner, so I don't need to split them. And then hopefully a code gen phase would have happened. It hasn't. So I need to like remove all compiler errors.
Oh, and then it will generate.
I need to build.
Field owner. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, actually I'm gonna go for ID. So let's revert some of the stuff I did. So the problem is that you don't have an owner field. You have an owner object. It can be a user. It is complicated. It's really not worth getting there. The point is that this ID should be sufficient. And let me just print the ID here.
But that's always safer using IDs.
Yeah. It's the better idea. I was just trying to be lazy. But the problem is that there are gonna be some like weird GraphQL IDs. So the ID here is this one. Now this query needs to be a bit different. Like here you have this notes, and then you pass the ID. Now the problem with note is that it's like polymorphic. It can return. It's a union type. It can be anything really. You can use it to find any object that has an ID. And you can see there are a bunch of them in the GitHub API.
Yeah,
a lot
of them.
But I know this one is a repository, so I need to do this. And that should work as long as I change those guys. Yep.
So that 3 points on repository, that means only give me types repository.
Yeah, it means like if this object here is of type repository, then give me those fields. And I can do,
so
if
it's
this
a
object
filter, basically.
is a user, then give me like name and email, and so on. And a user does not have, oh, they do have pull requests, all right. If this is a comment, then I'm not going to have pull requests here, but I'm going to have a body, an author,
yeah,
and so on.
So it's a kind of casting.
Yeah.
Filtering, casting, something in between.
Yeah, it's downcast. It's like essentially a safe downcast. And that's why I did not want to go with owner, because if you see here, repository owner is like another interface.
Yeah.
That can be an organization or a user. They do have a login, so that would have been fine, but whatever. ID is better.
ID is always better.
Yeah. Cool. So if we come here, then let's build. And this is pull requests query. This is like better code repository ID, but whatever. And then here, let's just cycle over the response. It's gonna have data. It's gonna have a node. This node is gonna be a repository. And then okay, what's your problem now? Does the word baba mean something in Romanian?
Old lady.
Yeah, it's the same in Bulgarian. So I want to see the type of this, but there's a problem. Okay.
Immutable value. Oh yeah.
Do I not need the label?
Okay, that's weird. Extra argument ID.
I don't know whether that's like the real problem or not. It's like really awkward with Xcode. So I want to make sure that I have only one error. Okay, fine. So, and then I have repository, and that repository has a GraphQL ID. So what is your problem actually?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
So you wanted that object.
Sorry?
You wanted that object, whatever it is, to call pull request query.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they messed up. I have like no idea. Cool, but should this not be an array? Oh, right. So we have nodes here. Then there we go. It's fine. So yeah, I was just like trying to verify that I get the list of the open pull requests, and I do.
So what was with the exclamation marks?
Right. So there are a couple of things here. Some of them are cool. So this one and those ones are different. Let's start with those ones. So those ones essentially in Swift you have optional, which is like something that can be no. And when you have an optional, like you kind of need to do the usual dance around it. But if you're really sure it's not no, you can do an exclamation mark. It's called unconditional unwrapping. Now, it's usually not a very safe practice, but and if you look at this line, it's like a nice, interesting mixture between problems in the API and place where it's like debatable whether we need to play it safe or not. So, and this can be a rabbit hole, but why the hell let's do it. You get the data, and then you get the data if the query is successful. Otherwise, data can be no. So this one I should actually check. I'm not. Here I'm gonna get. I'm probably always gonna get a record. This might be no, but like in errors, I get some details. So it should be kind of fine to just like check errors, and then if errors is empty, assume that node is not no. But it gets like this one is debatable because you remember that we have this downcasting, and if we select something that's not a repository but the user, this is going to be no. which I think we're like pretty fine to do the exclamation point here. And here, the exclamation point is actually fine because in the GitHub API, the array of pull requests is defined as knowable. Both the array is knowable and then each pull request is knowable. So it can be an array containing no's, or it can be just a no object, but it's never gonna return either. So in their schema, they have it's actually code. Let me trace it. Here it's just like an array of pull requests, but that means optional array, optional pull request. And actually it should have been pull request exclamation mark, array exclamation mark. And both of them should have been made non-optional. But they're not, so we need to have like this exclamation here. Did that make sense?
Yeah, so you're in a way forcing it. You're sure that you can take data, it has data, so you're forcing it to...
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to ship with this exclamation point and this exclamation point. The ones here, in all fairness, need a bit more handling. This exclamation point here is like very different because this is a type declaration. And essentially, it's called force and wrapped optionals, and it's actually an optional, but it allows you to treat it as it's not an optional. So here I can just go repository ID. If this was an optional, then the compiler would like tell me that I need to do something here, like either code the ID or provide a default value or handle it in some other way. Make sure that it's not, that repository is not a no. And normally you don't need to do force unwrapped variables, except when you're dealing with controllers and some other UI kit stuff, because essentially this controller gets initialized by the operating system, and you don't have the option to pass this to the constructor of the controller. Instead, we're setting it here. And we know we're always setting it here. And if somebody else is like pointing to that controller, this like a message for them that they need to set this up. But we don't want to deal with the no value anywhere here, because there's like really not much we can do. If this is no, then there's an error in our code and we should like crash early. And that's why I need this.
Okay.
I cannot keep it like this because there's no initializer for it. And it's like pretty standard. It's like doing setter injection in Java, for example, instead of constructor injection, or it's late in it in Kotlin. It's not ideal, but like when you're working with like a UI framework like that, occasionally just happens. Made sense?
Yep. Okay, let's go on.
So I kind of need to do the same nonsense here, which is take this type and type alias it here. And then I can essentially do self. And I do some weirdness here. If I want to be safe, I can do compact map, but I don't want to be safe. I like to live dangerously.
So what's compact map?
It's like it removes no's from the list, but I already know that there are not going to be any no's there, so it's fine.
Okay.
This is the count, and then here, so was there a title, text, something? This should be fine, or it's not fine. Very not fine. Fine, because I need to set the text here. Like text label is an object, and text is just a string.
So you want to show the title of the pull request.
Although that's not gonna work either. So there are stock UI view cells. I think we went through that last time as well, but let's see. So I can either like create my own layout for the cell like we did here, or I can just like use a predefined one. And let's use predefined one for now. And then if I go back, this is title label, text label. Let's see. Let's just try it. Nope. So let's see the attributes here. Text label, detailed text label. And again, this should be something that like an experienced iOS developer knows. This should be fine. Actually, let me just make sure this one gets called, because it can be something as stupid as that. It is something as stupid as that. Actually, and very obviously, I need to call table view reload data, because you know, this controller renders, but this query happens in the background, and then the result gets processed after the initial render. So this guy gets called, it returns 0 because the initial value is empty, and then we never get the cell. So that's why here I'm writing it to this variable, but I also need to like tell the table view that something changed.
Oh, okay.
And now we have the list. And here I think that we can maybe add the states just for kicks. So sadly, this is not gonna be able to convert to string, or is it? Is this like raw value string? Yeah, it is string. So we're fine. It's not gonna be like very user friendly. It's gonna be all caps lock and underscores, but it's fine. So yep. And now we can browse the pull requests. Cool.
Nice.
Let's make a commit here. And to be fair, I do want to make like real commit here. So I want to do some very rudimentary refactoring. Maybe. No, I don't. I'm happy with this. So
So you rebase, you pack all the last commits into one.
Yeah. Let me see what the changes though. This file should be like git ignored actually. Should not be here.
Yeah, keeps changing.
Yeah, whatever. Cool, now I should have 3 commits. Let's see what we're doing here. Like changes in the API are not that interesting. Like it's a bunch of XML files. I'm not seeing anything weird on a quick glance. This one looks okay. This one looks okay. Sorry, I realized that this is small. And the query looks okay. So, do we want to like practice the art of writing good commit messages, or do we want to be brief?
Well, I always like writing good commit messages because it helps me, so.
All right, fair enough. Did we do anything else interesting?
I don't know.
I don't know, like everything else is pretty stock.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Cool. So yeah. Do you want to like discuss, spend some time on like why did I do it like the way I did it?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. The way that you were stashing stashing the commit messages.
Yeah, so I like having a lot of small commits, and occasionally I can just like do a proper small commit after a different proper small commit.
Mm-hmm. I do the same. Yeah.
Sorry?
I do the same.
Yeah, but here I felt that like I need to like go even on a finer level of detail because Xcode might disappoint me eventually, and it did when I tried to do the rename. So I was like not ready to do a commit, but I knew I was gonna do something risky, so that's why I kept like doing smaller whip commits. And then I just like did git rebase interactive and just like merge them into one. I use this as an opportunity to go through all the code we've written to make sure I'm not missing something, or I didn't do anything stupid, or just like remind myself what this was all about. And then finally I wrote the commit message. And I chose to keep it brief because I don't think there's anything much interesting to say, really. Again, everything is pretty stock. To be fair, if we're not on a screencast, I would have not added this part either. But I just wanted to show that I can do bullet lists. But yeah, I mean, like, basically we're just adding a controller for pull requests. I like to keep the first line very short, so I think this is enough. More, we can go into saying like we add a view controller for that, but I don't think it's necessary. Here's like a bunch really minor detail, and this one is like kind of important because if somebody else is monitoring my work, I kind of want to indicate that I'm thinking about those things, but I'm not going to do it now.
So at the end, the fact that you didn't have errors but that you don't handle errors or paging very well, but it kind of works. It's kind of work in progress still.
Yeah, because essentially, and actually this commit is a good example of that. You have three different audiences with commit message. You have like people browsing through the whole history and they just care about this line.
Like, what happened, the main message, I put this feature on.
Yeah. You have people who are doing git blame and they're looking at individual commits to figure out what the hell happened. And that can be useful for them.
Yeah, so the details, that's I think that comes to you from open source, right? Because typically you do a lot of blame in open source.
Yeah, maybe, but I've also found that you do a lot of blaming at work as well.
Okay.
And especially if you're remote and you cannot like go over the next desk and like start poking somebody about why the heck did they do it, or they left the company.
Yeah,
it's really important to have good commit messages. But you might be right. It might have came to me from open source, but we definitely do that at work as well.
I found it interesting that, well, I do the same very small commits, but you talked about risk. So that's my approach as well. So the riskier you feel, you make smaller commits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that like smaller commits should remain history, but they're definitely like a good way to save your progress.
I feel like it's a kind of an undo button that I have, and it showed it was very good. A very, very good idea when Xcode didn't do something. We don't know what. Just go back, do it again, the same thing, and then it worked. A rename, that's something should be very simple. So.
Yeah, you know, maybe when we look at the recording, we'll spot the error, but it's just not worth it at the moment we were doing it.
And it can take so much time.
Yeah.
Just to understand what the hell happened. It's a lot easier to say, okay, go back, reset to head, and then do it all over. It's 2 minutes max or 1 minute.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to elaborate on this final bit here. So I said you have three audiences: somebody looking through the history of like the whole branch, or in general, somebody who's like blaming individual commits. And then when you work in a team, occasionally you would have people who read your work commit by commit just to stay up to date. And this one is like a comment basically to them. It's not like useful information for somebody who's like spelunking this code base 3 years from now, when we already have errors in paging. But it's definitely useful for people who are looking at my commits today or tomorrow.
Yeah. So
while they're still like before I've merged my branch, and before I've opened the code review.
So maybe it's useful until you put this in production, and then probably that part is useless.
Sorry?
It's useful until you can put that, you will put the feature in production, and that part is useless.
Yeah, but then like going back and redoing the messages would be just too much work.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's short and like it wouldn't slow down anybody who's from this audience, and then people from this audience are not gonna see it.
As long as it's short, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's do some refactoring now, because we definitely have a lot of things to look at.
Yep.
I just had a question before starting. Is this kind of switch case something that you do usually, or because typically switches are, I don't know, something that I find very repulsive in code.
So you mean this?
Yeah.
Mean this one, right?
Yeah.
It's fine here because it's like a very functional approach. I mean, like result is an enumeration type. It can either be success or failure. There are no more options.
Yeah.
If I miss one of them, the compiler is going to scream at me. And it also does destructuring. So essentially, let me find it. It's like switch is either in Haskell, but it can be it would like have a one type of object for success and one type of object for failure. And in this particular case, it's either a GraphQL result with like this type of data or an error. So depending on whether it's case success or case failure, you need to do some destructuring. You need to like go in and get the response or go in and get the error. And Swift does this for you. So here is going to be the correct type, and here is going to be the correct type as well.
Okay.
So for me, this switch is pretty okay, because here it's actually pattern matching, which is like very acceptable.
So yeah, but that's also a good idea that you cannot add more options there.
Yeah, this switch here is a different story.
Yeah,
it's like not ideal. But normally you would have a bunch of transitions you have like 2 or 3 segues, and that's just like the nice way to write them down. You can do like an if else, but this one reads better. And at least with segues, there isn't like a way to make them more safe unless you go for some other patterns, like the coordinator pattern. But if you don't want to go for coordinators, then this is like kind of okay.
Right. So what I don't like here is that you have the same text that you connect to the name, and that's typically something that can generate defects because it's connected with show repository text. And I think that's a thing in any scripting language that makes me a bit anxious.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal, but the reason you cannot avoid it is because
I understand it why, and you do have this advantage of being able to do that very fast and easy. Yeah,
so it's not ideal, but like there isn't a better way to type it, is my point.
Okay, enough with questions. So let's see what we can refactor now.
So like the very, very annoying thing is those types here. And luckily there's something called fragments in GraphQL. It allows you to essentially let me just like show it. Create a reusable piece that you can use at multiple different places. I'm gonna call this repository fragment. I need to specify the type. It's on repository, and then it's just gonna be those 4 fields.
Oh, so you're taking fragments inside the collection.
Yeah, I can share this one across multiple queries that want to have the same data. Makes sense?
Okay.
But the reason I also like it is that it gives me a top level name, because every response in the query has like a specific different type, and that's why they're scoped under the query name. Because the repository you get in my repositories is going to have ID, name with owner, and view has start, but the repository you get in pull requests has just an array of pull requests. So that's why like all the names here are nested.
Yeah.
But if you have a fragment, it's okay to have it top level. So if I essentially replace this query with this query, and let's rearrange them, and then build, I am gonna get top level object, and I just need to deal with the so now I have a repository fragment. Like never mind all the code gen here, but it has the ID, the name with owner, the view has start, and it's also top level. So we just need to fix the compiler warnings, and then do the same thing with the pull request.
So you just wrote it there to generate the code, and that's all.
Yeah. So now this needs to be a repository fragment. Here I'm gonna have like maybe S. It gets a bit weird here, but like bear with me. It's just because of like types in Swift. And then this one does not need to be this type. It can be repository fragments without a problem. This one can be repository fragments. Finally, this one needs to be repository fragments. And I can remove this type here.
So this is kind of clarifying the data and adding as well the domain name.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's a bit weird that it gets generated from the GraphQL API. Like it really takes a while to figure out why this is a good idea versus something you want to wrap. So it's kind of a domain object now.
Yeah.
And we can even put methods in it in Swift if we want to.
You extend it, yeah.
Yeah, you can do extension and then just like pin a method on it and add some business logic there if you need to. You can also try to wrap it in your own domain objects, but I would like really advise against that. It just works better with UI and GraphQL. I think we covered this last time, so let's not go over it again.
Yeah.
Again, like small commits. I really need to fix my git ignore. It was not a rename, it was a fragment extract, but whatever. And then I want to do the same thing with the other query. It's this query. Yeah, we do have an ID. I didn't need to do that, or I did. There we go. And now I want this to be the fragment, so it's pull request fragments, and then.
So then, if you have another query for pull requests, let's say, and you need the same fragments, you just have pull request fragment.
Yeah, I can get it
from two different requests.
Yeah, into different queries.
Two different queries. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show in a second. So by the way, there's a syntax highlighter for GraphQL queries in Xcode, but it keeps breaking every now and then for me. So yeah, like this query here, pull requests, fetches a single repository and just its pull requests. But I can also like get the repository fragment as well if I want to. So I can do this. And now I'm getting the data from repository fragments and like all this data here.
So it's a way of reusing the structure of the data, right?
Yeah, exactly. But also in the language where you're making the query, you also get the top level type.
Yeah.
And I'm going for the top level type here. Because like this was just some temporary nonsense. Did I fuck up the query though? No, I didn't. It's fine. Like the generated types are a bit different. And that's why we need to do these things. So now I also need to do fragment and this essentially. And that's going over my line limit. Or actually is it? Yeah, it is. I like to do 120 and this is more than 120.
Yeah, well, you can see the line.
Yeah, I was just not sure whether it's 100 or 120. So do I have a typo? Pull request fragment on pull requests.
It looks good.
Okay, let's comment out everything. Compile. And by the way, this is my build messed up. Not like Xcode being stupid. I don't want to blame this on Xcode. It's not Xcode's fault. It's my fault. Okay, now is this working? Now it is working. No, it's not working. What the fuck? So we do have a pull request fragment here. I have to like import tuple. Was this the problem? Yeah, that was the problem anyway. That was a bit more torture than it needs to. And yeah, we're fine now. So I think I have only one commit, so yeah, all right. Cool. And yeah.
Yes, so how was this session for you?
It was good, but it's kind of like a mixture between, doing an iOS/GraphQL tutorial and implementing some functionality, which is fun, but also makes the pace slower. Is it okay if I stop screen sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then let me see your face. There we go. So yeah, it was good. I thought we could get like more things done. We didn't. A big part of that was me walking us through essentially again iOS stuff and GraphQL stuff. We didn't do something fundamentally different from last time.
Well, more commits, I guess.
Yeah, we did actually. We did actually behave like it's 2020 and use the version control system, which was nice.
Yeah.
And I don't think we went for a rabbit hole, but there were like a few moments where either Xcode was weird or like I couldn't exactly figure out what the problem is quickly enough.
Yeah, there were, but it was just I think short moments when that happened.
Cool. And how did it feel for you?
Well, again, I'm learning these things. For me, as you said, it's like a tutorial. I've never done any of these. Well, never, almost never, but it's the same as never. And I really liked the thing that we advanced. You see more things. There's a new increment of a feature that we made. We also made the code nicer. We also looked at how to improve things. I like the approach with the list of things to do. I do the same. Typically I use paper because I find it more convenient. But as you said, when you're codecasting, it's kind of difficult to do that. I also like the commits, and for me it was interesting to see how you deal with commits and rebase them. I do it a bit differently. I just keep the initial names and compact the initial names. I try to write what I've done there from a very businessy point of view, and I then merge them. Then what else? I don't know. That's all, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. For next time, we should assume like some knowledge of iOS and like focus on RX, because that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, sure. No worries. I can do that. I'm just, if something is really weird or I really don't get it, of course I'll ask. But I don't think there was nothing that out of the ordinary. I was just asking a few things, like the one with the switch, because I saw two of them and they were clearly different. And the other one with the types, with the optional types, and so that is again very different. So
and to be fair, I was feeling that I need to explain a lot of things rather than you having the questions. So I need to be less talky and more codey, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it's that necessary to explain a lot of things. I can ask if I don't get stuff.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, so next time we'll continue to what?
We're gonna do just refactoring next time. We are going to introduce RX, because that's going to be like a bit weirder. And on the back of that, we can start handling errors.
Okay.
But it's gonna like create a nice little foundation that might not necessarily be evident at the time, but that's gonna make working with network and UI easier and simpler.
Okay, sounds great. So thanks for pairing with me, or at least showing me what you do and chatting about it. And yeah, as always, and until next time, have fun coding.
Yeah, thank you.